I could hear typing in the background, emails, messages. Proof that even as she erased me, she was already attending to someone else. Someone more important. I wiped my hands on a dish towel that suddenly felt too thin. Well, I said quietly, that happens. She didn't pause. Didn't search my tone for hurt. Okay, great. I have to run. Love you. The call ended before I could answer. The silence that followed filled my kitchen. But it wasn't loud or dramatic. It felt clean. Final. Like a window just wiped clear after years of grime. Something shifted inside me. Not a break, not yet, but a hinge loosening after decades of strain. I stood there, my hand still resting on the counter, and knew this moment wouldn't fade like so many others had. This one was different. This one would change how I moved through the rest of my life. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't rush to call her back. That silence didn't hurt the way I expected, but it opened a door to memories I had spent years pretending didn't matter. I did not cry after Belle's call. Instead, memories began rising in quiet waves, as if they had been waiting patiently for permission. They didn't come with anger. They came with clarity. The first memory settled on a Thanksgiving years ago. I had spent 2 full days cooking, basting, chopping, tasting, moving through the kitchen with the careful pride of someone who wanted everything to be just right. When Belle walked in, she didn't even remove her coat. She wrinkled her nose and looked around. "Mom, why does everything look so old-fashioned?" she said. "Next year, let me handle it. I can order something decent." I laughed then because laughing was easier than admitting the sting. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Another memory followed, sharp and precise. Her high school graduation. She had misplaced her speech cards and accused me in front of her friends. "You probably moved them while cleaning," she snapped. "You always move my stuff." Remembered standing there holding a bouquet I had bought with 2 days' worth of savings from my part-time job. I remembered apologizing out loud for something I hadn't done. I remembered the way the apology came naturally, like muscle memory. Over the years, the pattern repeated itself quietly. "Mom, don't talk too much when Adrienne's parents come. They're very particular." "Mom, can you pick up my dry cleaning?" I forgot again. "Mom, you wouldn't understand. It's just how things work in my world." I never argued. I cooked her favorite meals. I drove long distances to deliver things she forgot. I smoothed over conflicts she created. I told myself kindness worked like slow medicine, that one day gratitude would bloom. Instead, gratitude hardened into expectation. Once, during a brunch with her friends, she introduced me with a light, dismissive laugh. "This is my mom," she said. "She tries her best." Her friends smiled politely. I focused on stirring my coffee so she wouldn't see the sting in my eyes. Now, standing alone in my quiet kitchen, those memories fell into place. Not loud, not dramatic. Just true. And for the first time, I allowed myself to feel the weight of all the years I had been invisible. By the time Belle's wedding day arrived, I already knew something inside me had shifted. But I wasn't prepared for what seeing it would finally make me accept. On the morning of the wedding, I opened my laptop the way someone opens a wound they already know will sting. The live stream loaded with a soft chime, and suddenly Los Angeles sunlight filled my small Portland kitchen. Guests settled into their seats. Laughter rose. Music swelled. Everything looked effortless, curated, perfect. Then my name appeared on the screen. Reserved, Marian Larkwood. Printed neatly on a white place card at an empty chair. They had kept the chair. They had removed the person. I stared at it longer than I should have. No one else seemed to notice. The camera shifted, the moment passed, and the seat remained empty without explanation. Belle entered next, glowing in a fitted ivory gown. The coordinator adjusted her veil. Adrian smiled beside her, relaxed, untouched by worry. His mother leaned in and touched Belle's arm with a tenderness I recognized immediately. "That necklace," I murmured to the screen. "I gave you that." Belle laughed at something Adrian whispered. His mother brushed a loose curl from Belle's cheek with a softness that once belonged to me. Watching it felt like seeing a role quietly reassigned. As the officiant began to speak, the camera swept across the rows again. My empty seat caught the light once more. Still, no one questioned it. No one paused. I closed the laptop halfway before the vows finished. My hand rested on the table, steady. The silence that filled the room didn't feel accidental. It felt chosen. The next morning I deleted the family group chat. No announcement. No explanation. My thumb hovered only a second before I pressed leave. A few hours later my sister Lena messaged. "Marian, did you mean to exit the chat?" "Yes," I replied. There was a pause. Then, "Is everything okay?" "I'm fine," I typed back. And for the first time in years it wasn't a lie. I stopped sending reminders. Stopped mailing packages that went unacknowledged. Stopped organizing my life around Belle's needs. My calendar, once crowded with her world, slowly went blank. And instead of feeling empty, it felt open. I thought stepping away would hurt more. But I hadn't yet realized how much space silence could create, or what might begin to grow inside it. Spring arrived quietly, without asking anything of me. The days lengthened, and for the first time in decades, they were not measured by someone else's deadlines. One evening, sitting alone with a cup of tea, I realized I hadn't checked Belle's social media in months. The urge to monitor her life, the posts, the captions, the carefully filtered happiness, had simply dissolved. In the hollow left by that habit, something unfamiliar stirred. Not grief, not anger. Light. I told myself I wasn't rebuilding anything. I only needed rest. A pause. A space where Belle's voice didn't echo through every decision I made. But pauses have a way of turning into doorways. The knock came from my neighbor Helen, paint-stained apron still tied around her waist. "We're short one person in my watercolor group," she said. "Come with me. It'll be fun." I almost said no. For 65 years I had been busy being useful. But Helen smiled in a way that didn't invite excuses. At the community center, the instructor placed a brush in my hand. "Just try," he said. My first strokes were shaky. The colors bled where I hadn't planned them to. But as the paint spread across the paper, something inside me loosened. No one asked for anything. No one corrected me. No one compared me to someone better. The following week, I returned without Helen needing to ask. Soon after, I joined a volunteer group delivering groceries to seniors who couldn't drive. During one delivery, an elderly man named Frank looked at me and said, "You remind me of someone who used to care for everyone but herself." I blinked, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "Maybe I'm finally learning," I said. Late spring brought a Tai Chi class in the park. A woman named Lorraine leaned over during warm-up and whispered, "If I fall, pretend it was intentional." I laughed harder than I had in years. My days filled slowly. Art on Mondays. Volunteering on Wednesdays. Tai Chi on Fridays. Nothing dramatic. Just small, steady acts of choosing myself. One afternoon, while cleaning a drawer, I found the old planner where I had tracked everything for Belle. Appointments, deadlines, gifts, reminders. Page after page in my handwriting. I closed it gently. Then I placed it in the trash. The house felt lighter afterward, as if something invisible had lifted from the walls. Outside, children chased bubbles down the sidewalk, their laughter drifting in like a breeze. And for the first time in a long while, the air felt like it belonged to me. Peace arrived softly, but somewhere far away, the life Belle had built on borrowed support was beginning to crack. The first sign came quietly, the way bad weather often does. A message from my cousin Marcy appeared on my phone. "Did you see Belle's latest post?" She deleted it after 10 minutes. I hadn't seen anything. I hadn't looked in months. Marcy sent the screenshot anyway. Belle stood in her apartment, makeup smudged, eyes tired. The caption read, "Some days nothing works. Some days you realize who's really there for you." The smile on her face looked practiced, brittle. Nothing like the confidence she used to wear so easily. A few days later, Marcy called again. "I heard her agency might be cutting staff," she said. "Just rumors, but she's nervous." I thanked her and set the phone down. If Belle wanted to talk to me, she knew how to reach me. Instead, she posted quotes. "Rise above. Trust your worth. Remove toxic energy." Each one felt louder than the last, as if shouting could hold something together that was already splitting. In early summer, Helen mentioned something she'd heard through family in Los Angeles. Belle and Adrian had fought badly. He'd canceled her credit card. Something about spending. I listened without reacting, letting the information settle like dust. Then my sister Lena called late one night. "Marian, I don't want to alarm you, but Belle showed up at our cousin's place crying. Something about missed rent. Did she ask for me? I asked. Lena hesitated. No. She said you were busy living your little Portland life. Her words, not mine. The sting came and went. Belle had always spoken about me as if I were an inconvenience she'd outgrown. Her social media grew quieter. Smiling photos disappeared. The glow she'd curated dimmed until all that remained were vague updates and half-hearted captions. The cracks widened. Her world, perfect, controlled, untouchable, was beginning to break. I knew with a calm certainty that sooner or later she would come looking for someone to hold it together. The call came on a Thursday evening. I had just finished washing paint from my hands after class when Belle's name lit up my phone for the first time in almost a year. I let it ring twice before answering. Mom, she said, breathless. I need help. Her voice was strained, urgent, but not softened. Not humble. What do you need, Belle? I asked. I'm short on rent, she said quickly. Adrian moved out without warning. The landlord doesn't care. I need you to transfer me money. Not a lot. Just enough to keep me from falling behind. How much? She hesitated. 3,000. I dried my hands on a towel. I don't have that to give. You do, she snapped. You just don't want to. The old tone. Sharp. Familiar. Mom, this is serious, she said. I could get kicked out. I'm sorry you're struggling, I said evenly. But I can't fix this for you. There was a sharp inhale. You're my mom. You're supposed to help. I have helped, I replied. Many times. That was different. This is an emergency. I sat down at the kitchen table. Needing me doesn't erase how you've treated me. She scoffed. You're being dramatic. So I forgot a wedding invitation. Are you really going to hold that over my head forever? Something settled inside me then. A boundary clicking into place. That wasn't the only thing, I said quietly. And you know it. She went silent. Then anger rushed in. You're jealous. You like this. You like seeing me struggle. No, I said. I want you to learn how to stand on your own. Her voice cracked. Mom, please. I don't have anyone else. You have yourself, I said gently. And you can do more than you think. The silence that followed felt heavy. Final. I can't believe you, she whispered. You're supposed to say yes. I know, I said. But I'm saying no. She hung up. And the door she had never believed could close stayed closed. She thought my no was temporary. But the consequences she'd avoided for years were already closing in. The messages started almost immediately. First a text. Mom, the landlord taped a notice to my door. I have 10 days. I read it twice, then turned my phone face down on the table. I didn't reply. 2 days later my sister Lena called. Her voice was low, careful. Marian, something's really wrong. Belle showed up at Aunt Julie's house crying. She said Adrian emptied their joint account before leaving. I closed my eyes. Did she say why? She blamed him. Then she blamed you. Then she blamed the economy. That sounded like Belle. That evening another message arrived. Mom, can you lend me just $1,000? Just until my paycheck comes. I typed slowly, deliberately. I cannot. No explanation. No apology. Just the truth. Her voice message came late that night, thick with tears. It's not fair, she sobbed. Everyone abandons me the second things go wrong. Adrian barely spoke to me before he left. My friends blocked me because I asked for help. Even my agency says my attitude is inconsistent. They put me on a performance plan. Can you believe that? I listened, holding the phone gently, hearing the fear beneath the anger, the panic beneath the entitlement. And beneath it all, the same pattern. Everyone else was the problem. On the third day she called again. Mom, please, she said quickly. Just talk to the landlord. Tell him you'll cover me. He listens to older people. I won't, I said. You're letting me drown, she snapped. I'm letting you swim. She hung up so hard I could hear the click echo. By the end of the week, Marcy sent one last update. Belle moved in with a coworker temporarily. Things look rough. I thanked her and set the phone aside. That evening, I sat by my window as the sky turned gray and still. I imagined Belle alone in a borrowed room, surrounded by consequences she'd spent years outrunning. My heart ached for her, but my boundaries held. Then on a gray Sunday morning there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Belle stood there with a small overnight bag. She looked thinner. Her hair was pulled back without its usual shine. For the first time she didn't rush past me or speak over me. "Mom," she said quietly, "can I come in?" I stepped aside. She sat at my kitchen table like someone who had run out of places to pretend. "I owe you an apology," she said. "A real one. Not the kind I give when I want something." I waited. "I knew exactly what I was doing when I didn't send your wedding invitation," she admitted. "Adrian said his parents preferred organized families. I didn't want to look messy. I didn't want them to judge me." "You were afraid," I said. "And selfish," she whispered. "I chose their approval over my own mother. I thought if I edited you out, my life would look perfect." The truth sat between us, heavy and quiet. "You didn't deserve that," she said. "No," I replied calmly. "I didn't." She looked up at me, startled by my steadiness. "I'm trying to fix things. I just don't know where to start." "You start by telling the truth," I said. "Which you just did." Her eyes filled. "Do you forgive me?" I reached across the table and rested my hand near hers. Not touching. Just close. "Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting," I said. "And it's not the same as going back." She nodded slowly, understanding more than she wanted to. For the first time she didn't ask for anything. She just sat there, breathing in the silence she'd never learned how to face. I thought this was the end of the crisis, but it was only the beginning of something neither of us expected. Belle stayed in Portland longer than she planned. Not with me. She found a small room to rent through one of Lena's friends. But she came by often, always calling first, always standing a little straighter, like someone afraid of breaking something fragile. One afternoon we met at a small cafe near my building. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. "I got a job," she said. "It's not glamorous. Customer support for an online retailer. But it's mine." "That sounds steady," I replied. She nodded. "I'm learning how to budget. I didn't realize how much Adrian covered. Or how much I depended on you." "I'm glad you're learning," I said. She hesitated, then added, "I'm not asking for help anymore. I want to stand on my own." "That's good, Belle," I told her. "Standing is the first step to walking." A faint smile touched her lips. "Does this mean we're okay?" "We're moving forward," I said gently. "But I won't carry what isn't mine." She looked at me, then really looked at me the way people do when they finally see someone they've ignored for years. "I understand," she said. Weeks passed. Our coffees became a quiet routine. She no longer arrived with demands, only conversation. She talked about job training, about learning to live with a roommate, about small victories that once would have embarrassed her. I told her about my watercolor class, about volunteering, about the joy of a life that finally felt like my own. She listened. One evening as we walked out of the cafe, she touched my arm lightly. "I like who you are now," she said. "I wish I'd seen you sooner." "I'm still here," I replied. And for the first time it felt true, not as a promise, not as a sacrifice, but as a choice. What neither of us said out loud was this: our story wasn't about reconciliation. It was about something far harder to learn. I learned something important in the quiet months that followed. Love does not mean erasing yourself so someone else can stand taller. It does not mean fixing every mistake before the other person feels the weight of it. And it does not mean staying small so someone you raised can feel large. Belle did not transform overnight. Neither did I. But something real had changed. She paid her own rent. She showed up to work on time. She stopped blaming everyone else when things felt hard. Some days she was confident. Other days she was unsure. And for the first time, those emotions were hers to carry, not mine to cushion. Our relationship became slower, careful, honest. There were no grand apologies after that first one. No dramatic speeches. Just consistency, respect, space. And that was enough. On a warm afternoon months later, I sat by my window watching children chase bubbles along the sidewalk. Their laughter floated up, light and unburdened. I realized something then. I no longer felt invisible. Not to Belle. Not to the world. Not to myself. I had chosen peace over approval. Boundaries over guilt. And in doing so, I had given my daughter something I never could before, the chance to grow up. And I had finally given myself the same. Sometimes the most powerful love story isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to step back and choosing yourself anyway.